Welcome to Switch It Up. Look at this. This is like this big green thing here. We're switching it up today. We are in
Colonial Williamsburg, Virginia.
Yeah, we're in Virginia. It all starts running together. That's a big switch up.
But right now we are in Colonial
Williamsburd. And if you are sitting there like me, you're like, I don't know where that is, and I've never heard of that. That'd be me. I mean, I've heard of the history, but so today we're going to take you around Colonial Williamsburg and educate you as I get educated. How's that sound like for a vlog today?
Sounds great.
This was
when you tell me like you haven't heard of this or you know what song comes to my mind is like the Who Lives in a Pineapple Under the Sea. Todd does.
Shut up. It does not. Listen, you hear of these things. You hear of like Williamsburg. But did you ever hear of Colonial Williamsburg?
Yes.
No. Okay, well then you yeah. We're going to take you, so we're going to roll the intro and come back and learn some history. We're going to get learned here. Get some learned going.
A man and a woman left their home to switch things up and go on the road. They didn't know where they would go, but it's gotta be better than staying home. They switched it up. They switched it up.
She looks happy. You look great.
Thank you. How are you today?
Good. We're going into the Weaver's house.
Yep.
Have room for two more.
We have our ticket. Oh, I see tickets. Yep, you all are perfect.
We're good. We got our tickets. So if there's a flag out here, it means it's open for us to tour.
The flag that is the British
flag. So this ought to be fun. There's people that live here. We'll go over that in a second. Let's go into the Weaver's house. They're actually weaving fabric. Is that what they're doing?
Well, let's go find out.
It's just like we're walking in history.
We're walking in a town that's just been like stopped in time.
And still functioning as such.
That was 11 hours of setup, but it turns out to be my shortcut because now all I have to do is push down on the pedals 2 at a time. To lower half of my harnesses, I've got pedals 1 and 3 down, so harnesses 1 and 3 down. And with the pulleys, 2 and 4 pop up. Now I've got that tunnel of space just wide enough to launch the shuttle. And every time I zip that shuttle across, I'm leaving one strand of yarn behind in the trail.
It's hard, like you leave and you get all this information dumped on you and you're like, is that really how that works? Like, that's a lot of effort.
Like right now, they're making that fabric, and that fabric actually they use to make the costumes for the people that work here and walk these streets. Average person wears 7 to 10 yards of fabric. Either even if it's a summer or a winter. That was based in the colonial times. So they're making the fabric here.
Which is a yard an hour on average is what she said.
Okay. But they make that fabric here, and then there's a tailor shop that's still in work up here.
That tailor makes their...
And the seamstress, like they're all here.
So
it's still a working
Everyone working
colony.
here, they give you all of your outfits, and you have a lease here, and you live on the property. Let's go here. And so if they live here, and they work here every day, and they walk around, they all have like 4 or 5 or 6 outfits, then they wash them and take care of them. It's kind of a cool thing.
Well, yeah, it's kind of cool that it's still like
the way it was.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it's a working town trapped in time.
And if you get in trouble, you go to somewhere like the courthouse, which is right there. Let's go see how you can, what happens in the courthouse.
Sounds like
Court system.
Proven guilty goes back as a legal principle 1600 years to the times of Alfred the Great, the first All England king, and subsequently the Magna Carta. So this county courthouse was built in 1770 and ended its work in 1932. So many of the terms we hear today in our courtrooms come from this 18th century. You, the public, you would have been known as bystanders. You would have indeed been standing. You're sitting today because you've paid a chunk of money for your ticket. So if you were a witness, you wouldn't have been sitting in the box like they do today. You would have been standing next to it in the witness stand, a term we still use today. If you were the accused, you'd be in the centre here, coming forward to stand trial. Again, the term we use today. This is indeed the bar. It separates these great and noble people from the great unwashed. Now, who passes the bar these days? Lawyers. Lawyers, that's right, when they pass their law exam at their law school. But then it was literally passing through. The King's Bar of Justice, that's where the term came from. Or if they fail in some way, they are disbarred from the King's Bar of Justice. Young Thomas Jefferson sat on this bench here listening to his teacher George Witt. So lawyers on this first bench, if a lawyer was to approach the bench, as you can see back then that was meant literally, who would they be approaching? The judge, that's right. Not as we know him today, or then. That didn't come in until 1869. Back then, they were called magistrates or justices. There'd be at least 4 of them, usually more, which is why there's the bench. The most senior would be in the large chair and would only vote if the other magistrates were tied. None of the magistrates were paid because they were all wealthy, the top 5%, your plantation owners. George Washington was a magistrate. None of them were trained in law either. That's what brings us to this chapter. Clark, he was trained indeed for about 7 years, and he would advise them on all things to do with the law. He was paid for everything he did, and paid well. And what he didn't know, he could consult one of his many law books in the clerk's office over there. Then we have the sheriff and the under-sheriff, or the reef of the shire, the collector of shires, as it was known originally in Old English. The sheriff is a magistrate, therefore a wealthy chap, appointed for a year or 2, and as such he couldn't perform any manual labour, so he appointed the under-sheriff to do all the heavy lifting. The sheriff carried out all the court's decisions, the organiser, the enforcer. He would open proceedings with a yay or yay or yay. I now declare the court in session. God save the King.
Okay, that was intense. Like,
again, more information.
I could sit and listen to that guy talk about the court system, because when you start talking about the bar and how everyone was set up and where they were sitting, can we approach the bench?
Like, I mean, all the words that you just kind of take for granted, you don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
Well, that's pretty
but
cool.
I thought what was cool is that Thomas Jefferson did an apprenticeship in there from the George Witt, who was a signer of Declaration. So George said it, or Thomas Jefferson said in there.
But you probably don't know who George Witt is. You don't know?
Well, his house is here. We should go take a look
yes.
at it.
George Witt was like this guy that taught a lot of people, including Thomas Jefferson. George Washington walked around. He sat down here for quite a while. The history, our channel, if you go back through like our videos, it's like you're watching. We went up to where did we go? Mount Vernon, and we talked about George Washington being toothless, joking around. And since then, it's like we've taken this like trail We've gone to Boston. We've gone to Philly.
It's like we're on a little American history little tour right now,
And
which
now,
is great.
And now we're here, and it's like now you're hearing Thomas Jefferson sitting underneath this guy to learn apprenticeship on how to be an attorney in that courthouse.
Right.
It's like a weird.
And then we looked at it on the map on just how everything's
far
laid
away.
out, and it's like, oh yeah, it makes sense. They had boarded a ship just right over here, and to be able to get up to where Mount Vernon is now, that makes sense why he chose that
And
area.
as we were driving down, it said there was a sign saying George Washington's birth. I was like, wait a minute. So it's all like, we didn't plan it this way. It's just turned into this weird
It's
thing.
history coming alive right before our eyes.
So if you go back to Mount Vernon and then start watching the videos, you'll be like, oh yeah, they all start tying together in this weird American way. Anyway,
Yeah, it wasn't our plan. It's just kind of where the tour we're on.
we're
right
heading
now.
to the Capitol building that's over here. That's where
Are
we're
we
heading.
going to see George Wood's house?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
The town, give you a little backstory. Town is 1 mile long and a half mile wide. So, and it's pretty much preserved. They've redone the things that had kind of deteriorated, and they preserve it with everyone still working here. Also, if you're over on heading towards, what are we heading to, the Capitol?
We're headed to the Capitol.
That's this on the other side of town. There's a tavern over here that if you're going to come here, you're going to have to get, you have to get there early.
Yes, get there early.
By 1 o'clock, they were completely booked, is
For
what
the
we were
day.
told yesterday. So we went by there and there was a 2-hour wait. So instead, you can actually go, I'll put it on here, to the museum portion, and there's a cool little cafe in there, and there's your tip. We just gave you a tip for coming to
But
Colonial
I would
Williamsburg.
want to eat at the tavern if
Yes,
you could.
if you can, do that. But you're gonna have to get there early and make that reservation. This is just like weird historic horses going down with carriages and
What'd they say? Did we tell them already that 80 to 90 families still live here?
Yeah.
And work here? If you live here, you work here.
yes. And you stay in these, a lot of them, it's weird to see, this is weird. It's like we saw a house that had an Amazon package on the outside of it. It's like, what? That is a weird dichotomy coming.
Like they have these little plaques like that one right there. It says private residence.
Private, yeah.
Right? So
Which is cool. Oh,
you're just walking through their town.
if you want, right outside of this town on the next street over, they have a whole area with different hotels and different places you can stay. And then you can get up and come into the town.
There's even little bed and breakfast, I believe, here in town.
In town?
Yeah.
It's free to walk the streets and do whatever,
What's
but
that?
to go into, I don't know, you're on your map. But to go into them, like she wants to go into this, you have to purchase a ticket, and then they check your tickets to go in. And each one of these places have about a 7 to 10 minute history story explaining what that building was used for and who was there.
There's a flag.
Had a lot more of these things than other printers. Yeah, they run this back out. In here, the tacky ink, and then another copy off of this, right? So, and there you go. Just add space.
That's the touch that is expertise.
Yeah.
More than just being fast at doing it.
Sure.
It looks great.
Yeah, to make sure it looks right. Ooh, I got a fun fact for you, Sheila, that I know you don't know.
Oh, I'm ready.
So like these trees, they're beautiful, right? Here's the fun fact though. None of these trees, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 that are behind the palace, were ever here prior to this town. Most of the trees that you're seeing were planted by Mrs. Rockefeller to give more shade to the community as they were developing it. Ooh, look at that! Because you look at a tree, you're like, man, that's an old tree. That had to be here. Nope, unfortunately.
Well, it's still been here a long time.
Yeah, a lot of them they're projecting like 1930s, 1910 time frame period. That shows you how long they've been preserving this community too. So that's cool. We have ourselves some Native Americans over here in an encampment.
It's really because laws. So here within the confines of the city, it's illegal to harm an Indian by word or by deed. So you can't yell obscenities at them or physically attack them or anything like that. Even if they're being loud and boisterous or obnoxious, there's nothing you can really do about it. And the foreign tribes, so the tribes who have not signed the treaty, tribes from like Cherokee and Shawnee and Iroquois, they're seen as equal to king and crown when they're here. So even the gentry folk aren't really of that status that could even, you know, technically be allowed to communicate with those individuals. They're equal with the King of England.
Highest piece of ground between the James River and the York River, right on this main street here today. But this wasn't here at that time. It was a plantation. Now 6 years before the town, there was the College of William and Mary, 1693, and it still sits 1 mile from us here to the west. You've heard of Pocahontas. Her father was Powhatan, the chief of chiefs. He was over several tribes. He had defeated several other tribes in the area. So he was the supreme chief when Jamestown was started.
I can see why you'd come on different days with more than one day, because different things are open each day.
Sheila, there's George's house. George.
Did you know he signed the Declaration of Independence?
Yes, he's the best kept secret. Let's go in, take a look, and give a little tip, couple tips on good old Georgie Porgy.
I don't think he would like to.
That was his nickname back then, Georgie
No.
Porgy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, pudding pie.
No, that was a different George.
Oh. All right, good old George. He lived down here from the governor's palace. The governor, since the king of England couldn't be here, he would appoint the governor of the land. That would be the king on this land.
Because the king owned everything.
King owned everything.
There's still
So
all the kings.
Georgie's house is over here. So we're calling him. He was the best kept secret. Anyway, Georgie's house is over there, and then there's the governor's house. So he was very influential on everything that happened as being a teacher, a lawmaker, all of that fun stuff. So it was actually, he just had a lot of influence, but he was silent. He was behind the scenes. He was a teacher. That was his deal.
He was also a lawyer.
A lawyer.
He
Yes.
did a lot of things.
So kind of a little, you should look him up. He'd be under the Wikipedia Georgie Porgy.
No. For sure not.
Oh, let's go in the governor's palace. Let's see if we can still get in. We're running right up against the clock. God, it's just so much to see. If you guys come here,
Yeah.
take a full long day, maybe a couple days.
I'd say a couple days.
Yeah.
Because like I said, different things are available each day. So
And you can bring your bicycle. Of course, you can just see that. But you don't need to. Just a little walking.
it's not far.
No, it's not bad at all. The history is incredible.
Anyway, welcome to the front hall of the governor's palace. This is a good room. So, it looks like this for a reason. In the 18th century, if you were to walk through the front door, we want you to know who you are as in regards to the British Empire. So let's say it's about 1755. You walk in here, you are a British subject, you are a proud Virginian. You see all these on the wall here, and you know, if needed, we will take them all down and use them to defend you wherever you live.
Why does everyone keep saying that today?
Yeah.
Can you see me?
In typical fashion, we're running late. We're going to meet somebody for dinner. Now, we did learn that that original place did burn down when they actually had the war, and they turned it into a hospital, and something happened and it burned down. So they recreated this in 1920, I believe, to what they think it was like. So it's actually pretty impressive to see, considering they had some of the original things like the chandelier and the carpet, and it's just really...
We can learn a
really
lot
cool.
through archaeology, and they have several archaeology
dig sites.
Dig sites going on right now, so that they can learn more. And
so this completes our tour of this wonderful city, town, whatever.
colony.
Colony. That's a great one, dear. That's a good one. So Sheila, we give this a thumbs up.
Yes.
Even though I had no idea what it was going to be like, right?
Right.
So,
We also, yes, we would stay. Seems to be the theme. We would stay longer. We would see more.
well, there's just a little more stuff you can do here.
Yeah.
We are planning to go see one of the other places here, I guess, Yorktown.
And Jamestown.
In Jamestown. So we're continuing this wonderful American history tour. Stay tuned. Watch the next one.
Don't forget to
Like, comment, subscribe. Be a doer of all things,
doer of all the things.
because that's important.
Yes.
It helps us along our journey. Wow, look at this. Even the walk is cool. Look at this. Walk to the visitor center on the way back. All that being said, in the echoey way and cars going over our head,
Yes, but how cool is
it is pretty cool. We'll be
We're out. I
out.
think.